My dear viewers, happy to be back. Today we are going to take a TryHackMe challenge. Actually, let me be honest, I already took this challenge. It's a fascinating one. At the same time, it is very simple, but you should know what you are doing, then it is very simple. But I have learned a lot of things. In fact, I couldn't do this alone. I referred some write-ups in order to accomplish this because it was completely new to me and I really enjoyed doing this. So let's begin. Eavesdropper, so that is the room name, and it was created by three people: John Hammond, one of my favorites, CM Natix, and Tim Taylor. And look at this tagline here. Listen closely, you might hear a password. Well, this tagline indicates we are going to set up some kind of listener and we are going to catch the password. That is what when you see this for the first time, that is what you probably presume, right? But let's see what really we are. I mean, we are up against. It's a simple task. Only two tasks here. The first one is the simple one. You need to download the SSH key that is given here, and you have to download this one. Well, this is a privilege escalation exercise. We already given the SSH key. We are going to log in the Linux machine as a normal user, and we are going to escalate the privilege to root. Well, that privilege escalation is something fascinating. That is awesome actually. So without further ado, let's begin, and make sure you are connected to TryHackMe's VPN and you started the machine. So here is the machine IP. Let's read this. Hello again, hacker. After uncovering a user Frank's SSH private key, you have broken into a target environment. Download the SSH key. Well, it is given here. Note, if you are using the attack box, you can copy and paste. So this is just an advice to you how to use the SSH. I mean, how to bring the SSH key into the attack box. All right. Now this one is done. I can simply download this one here by clicking this, and I have downloaded it. First of all, let me get into that directory. So this is where I have downloaded this private key file. I'll cat it. Yeah, this is the private key file. Now I'm modifying its privilege to 600. I'm restricting its privilege. Let me give 600. Yeah, now I have modified it. All right, now let me log in this SSH -i to specify the private key file and the username. And the username, it is we can find it in the second task. You have access under Frank, so Frank is the user, and you want to become a root. How can you escalate the privilege? As I said, that is the task. Now we know the user is Frank, and the IP address 10.10.162.24. Well, we good to log in. Yeah, we are logging in with private key, so we need not to enter the password here. Well, we got this. We get into this machine, and we are in the Frank's workstation. So let's do some basic enumeration. Who am I? I am Frank, my present working directory, and my ID to know. I mean, I'm a part of which groups. Look at this one. Frank is part of two groups. One is Frank himself, and the second one is sudo. So from this you can understand Frank is having some sort of sudo privilege, but we yet to know what commands Frank can execute as sudo. That one we can find, but before that, let me find what machine it is. I'm simply using uname -a to see the version, the kernel version and all. Okay, it's 5.4.0 and the architecture is 64-bit. And well, okay, now let me read this OS release file. Let's see, OS release. It's an Ubuntu machine, 20.04 and long-term support, focal fossa. So here is the machine version and name. All right. Now let's learn what kind of commands this user can execute. I'm simply giving sudo -l to learn the list of commands, but unfortunately it is asking for the password. We have no password. We don't have the password of Frank. That's the issue now. If we know the password, then we'll be able to learn the privilege that we have. All right. Now we don't have the password of Frank. Now let's see what else we can do. We can look for the other files present in the directory. I'll begin with the current directory. Current directory looks usual, nothing special here. It contains bash rc, and let me open this bash rc file. Whether I'm having any weird commands in this bash rc, then I'll be able to leverage that. I don't think, because it's a default bash rc config. Bash rc is the file to customize the bash shell for the user. All right, so that is the purpose of bash rc. All right, it looks usual, nothing modified. And let me see how many users are there in this machine. So looks like only one user. I can also confirm that with hc pass wd. Most of the users listed here are system users. Only few users we can able to log in, and those 2 users given here. You can see, you can find that by seeing this bin bash. So these 2 users can be accessed through bash shell. So root and Frank. So we have no other user apart from root. So we only need to escalate the privilege to root. All right. Now let's see what are all the processes running in this machine. So I'm using PSAUX to find the list of processes, and look at this one. We can see a couple of processes running as root. One process is SSHD, and another process is sudo-l. Sudo-l is nothing but we try to execute this command, right, to find the privilege. What are the commands the sudo can execute? And this one created during that time. All right, but look at this first 2 entries. SSH, there is a SSH process, the SSH daemon, that is running as root. Well, it's an interesting thing. It could be our privilege escalation vector. All right, now we got this. What else we need to do? Let me bring the LinPEas script to this workstation to see the privilege escalation vectors. So you can also do manual enumeration, but it's a time-taking process. That's why I'm planning to bring this LinPEas script into this machine. That's why I already downloaded this LinPEas here, and let me find the IP address 10.17.5.32, and I'm hosting this file from the local machine. Now the server is started. Let me check whether the wget is present. Yes, it is. And HTTP 10.17.5.32, port is 8000, linpeas.sh. Permission denied. Okay, I'm downloading it in the wrong directory. I need to go to the home directory, and from here I can download this. Yeah. All right, now I have downloaded this. Let me change the privilege of it. I can modify this because I'm owning this file. I'm executing this LinPEas script, and the privilege escalation script has started now. Let me check what are the interesting things we are getting. And look at this one, the things highlighted in yellow. Sorry for this, it is too light. 95% of it could be 95% of privilege escalation vector. Well, let's see this. The first one, it highlights that pseudo group. The user is part of pseudo group, so that could be our privilege escalation vector. And look at this one. The machine has bash and ping. All right, and you can see the pseudo version here. It is highlighted in yellow, so it could be the vulnerable pseudo version, and it says it is potentially vulnerable to this CVE. Looks like a kernel exploit, but I am not interested in this. I'm not going to use this kernel exploit to escalate the privilege. Yeah, it's a Linux kernel privilege escalation. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm looking for some other juicy stuff. Let's see, do I get any interesting thing here? The present working directory, we are in Frank's directory, and you may see the list of vulnerabilities. So this machine is potentially susceptible to these vulnerabilities. Well, that's what it means. And you can see we are in the Docker container. This is another interesting thing. We are not in a typical machine, it's a Docker container, and it's a rooted Docker, not rootless Docker. Well, going forward, do I have something else? Any interesting thing? It's taking some time to run this script. Look at this. Here it listed the processes that are running in this machine, and there is a command we executed, sudo -l, and we executed it as root because we used sudo. Well, scrolling down and look at this one. Here is the juicy stuff. This is what we are going to exploit. SSH daemon, the process is found, dump creds from memory as root. Looks like this process running as root, and it is allowing us to dump the memory of it, the process memory, and it's a juicy stuff. I haven't done this before. That's why I said I described this room as, this challenge as a fascinating one. So let me click this one, and actually I have no idea what this denotes. How can we achieve this? So I got the help from ChatGPT, and here is the excellent response of ChatGPT for that question. So here is the question I asked, and here is the response. The LinPEas output you provided indicates that the LinPEas script has found an SSH daemon process running on the system, and that it is possible to dump credential from memory as root. So since the SSH process is running as root, it is possible to dump the credentials out of the process as root, and that's what it says. And SSH daemon is a background process that runs on Linux system to enable secure remote access to the system's command line interface. When user connects to the system via SSH, the daemon prompts for username and password, and then authenticates the user's credentials before granting access to the command line. So it's a typical SSH login process. In this case, the LinPEas script is suggesting that it may be possible to extract sensitive information such as passwords, keys from memory of SSH daemon process. So this is what we are going to do. This is a potential security risk, as an attacker who gains access to the system may be able to extract this information and use it to gain further access or privileges on the system. So it is typically a vulnerable thing. Usually, you should not run this crucial process with the top privilege. So if you run, then this kind of memory extraction is possible. Well, to mitigate this risk, it is important to ensure that the SSH daemon and its associated processes are running with appropriate permissions and security control. So this is the mitigation step. So it should be having only the necessary permission. It shouldn't have any top privilege, the unwanted privileges. Well, that is what. This may involve restricting access to SSH daemon using strong passwords or keys for authentication, and implementing security measures to protect against memory-based attacks such as address space layout randomization and control flow integrity. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe I should learn this. It is also important to ensure that the system is kept up to date within last security patches and updates. So this is a general advisory. All right, I'm scrolling down whether I can see anything else interesting, but this is what our privilege escalation vector here, I strongly believe. I'm scrolling down further. Do I see any other interesting stuff? Nothing else. I don't see any other juicy things here. Yeah, now we executed this LinPEas and we have found a privilege escalation vector. Now how can we achieve that? Well, let me show that process once again. So the SSH is running as root. Well, we are going to leverage that. How can we leverage? How can we extract the credential out of the process memory? Well, that's it. That is an interesting thing here. The first thing, I am going to create a directory that is similar to the sudo directory. So first of all, let me find the location of sudo here. And here is the sudo directory, user bin sudo. That is where it located. But currently I am in Frank's home directory. Now I am going to create a directory called bin. So that is going to hold the binary and the sudo binary. And here I am creating a file called sudo. And I have created, let me give the execution privilege to this sudo, and yeah, now it is executable. I'm using nano, and I am going to add some contents, add a bash script within this sudo file. Well, before adding that, let me find the location of bash. The bash is present in user bin bash. All right. Now, let me get into this file once again and write that simple bash script. So here is the shebang line, hash exclamation, and here I am going to read the specific thing. Okay, I'm going to read the process memory, right? That's what I'm going to read. I'm going to read the content of the process memory. Well, I'm just giving the variable name as password here. It can be anything. So I'm using read, and this is the variable name. And here I'm going to echo that password. Echo that password, and I am echoing it to a new file. The new file could be anything that you create. And here I am simply mentioning like password.txt. All right, I'm using double what is that greater than symbol here. So it is going to append the contents here in this password.txt file. So it's going to create the file, and it's going to append the content of content present in this password variable. So this is the simple script that I was talking about. Cat sudo. All right, looks okay. Now I need to do another thing here. Let me set up an environment variable. Now I am having created sudo file here. Now I need to add this file, this path in the environment variable. I can modify the bash rc file to add the new environment variable, and that's what I'm going to do. So the bash rc, it is present in every user's home directory. So you can use this file to execute certain commands, sometimes for persistence, sometimes to add new environment variables. And I'm going to add the new environment variable that I'm talking about. Well, that the environment variable is located in the bin folder. All right. Okay, now let me edit that dot bash rc, and here I am just adding that line in the beginning. Export path equal to that that specific path of the newly created sudo file. I created that file in the frank directory itself. So this is the directory. So this is where that sudo file is located, and I am mentioning that path here, writing out. Now I have added this environment variable. Now all I need to do is to wait for the file to get created. I need to wait for some time. So it will be creating the file in this Frank's home directory, because in the script we defined that only. So let me cat that once again. Sudo. It is going to create a file called password.txt. And here is the file, password.txt. And look at this, the content has been added. So let me cat this file. Now you can see the password. So this is the password of the user Frank. You might be wondering how we obtained this. So that is the secret. Look at this one. The process SSH daemon executed by the root. So it is susceptible to the memory attack. We are able to dump the content of the memory out of the, content of the memory, right? So we are able to dump the content out of the process memory. So that is causing this sudo trigger, and it is actually creating the file. So instead of using that normal sudo file, the usual the original sudo file, it is executing the sudo file that we have created here, and it is eventually dumping the credential here. We have created a bash script and put it in this sudo file, and it executed and it dumped the credential of the Frank. If you look at the password here, the passwords will be appended in this list, because whenever this process that is running insecurely as a root, it calls sudo, then our script will be triggered. And in our script, we clearly mentioned that to append the content of the password variable in the password.txt file. So it reads the process memory and it copies the value here in this password variable, and it actually echoes whatever present in this variable into this password.txt file. So when the time passes, this password.txt file will be expanding, and you can see every time the process calls sudo, it drops the password here in this file. So yes, we got the password of the Frank. So let's check what are the commands this Frank can execute. And Frank can execute all commands. So we can simply execute, we can simply switch to root. Yeah, now we obtained the root, and here is the flag file, cat flag. So with this, we have done this eavesdropping exercise. What happened? Yeah, the fascinating thing of this exercise is dumping the process memory, the process with unwanted privilege. We leveraged that, we managed to dump the memory of SSH process, and we obtained the password of the user Frank. Well, this is what I exactly wanted to explain. I have learned so many things while doing this room for the first time. Hope you too feel the same. If you really learned something new, consider doing the YouTube algorithms, like, comment, subscription, everything, and also press the bell icon to get notified whenever I'm posting the video. And if you have any other opinion, feel free to put it in the comment section. I'll read through those comments and respond to your valuable questions. Well, yeah, this room has gave me some invaluable experience. That's what I would say. And I'll catch you next time with another exciting one. Until then, I'm signing off. Cheers, and I love you all. Thank you so much.